Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Bill Allen case and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. And we're fortunate to have with us members of the NAACP to talk about one of the most important criminal cases in Nashville over the last many years. Our first guest is Dr. Charles Kimbrough, also a longtime member of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Ms. Tasha Thompson, another member of the NAACP, and Pastor Kay Walker, who is also a frequent guest on this show, dealing with a whole variety of problems and challenges. And all three are here this morning to talk about Bill Allen and the Bill Allen case. Dr. Kimbrough, let's start with you by having you to give us some information in terms of the Bill Allen case itself. Take a couple of minutes of doing that, and then we'll move on to Ms. Thompson and Pastor Walker in reference to this case. When we talk about the Bill Allen case, and what are we talking about in the NAACP?
We are talking about a case to make, if you summarize it by saying the most outstanding case where there was very little justice done and too many acts of injustice during a criminal case. Bill Allen, I talked with him maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and thinking at that time that I had not known him as long as I had, but he reminded me that as early as 1973, before I was president of the Nashville branch of the NAACP, I had visited the prison, and he told me, he said, no, Dr. Kimbrough, you knew me earlier than when after I came off the run, so to speak, because you were trying to get an NAACP chapter started in the prison, and so I remembered that. But what was so outstanding about it is that Bill Allen has been making a plea through appeals and what have you in the as a result of this act that took place in January the 16th, 1968, in the death of 2 policemen.
Very good. Now, Ms. Thompson, you're rather new to the Bill Allen case. Why don't you talk about your relationship with this case and the NAACP itself?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Haney, for having us on this program. I first became involved with the Bill Allen case through another pastor, the pastor of my church, who he was friends with Dr. Kimbrough, and he told me about the Bill Allen case because of my history in the media and passion for social justice. And to be honest, I was a little hesitant to get involved with the case at first because it is controversial because of the facts involved. But when I started looking over the details of the case, I said I just had to learn more. So I went and I met Bill Allen. I went to the prison and met Bill Allen and talked to him and got his side of the story. And once I met him and I read the books, I just knew it was something that I had to be involved in and help out in any way that I can. I work with the NAACP as well. I'm with the PR and media with the NAACP. And I've been helping out with social media and just trying to get the word out. And we're really putting forth several more initiatives so that the public can get a chance to hear Bill's side of the story, because I don't believe that they've had the opportunity to hear Bill's side of the story, and I believe that that will make a huge difference when they do that through social media.
And Pastor Walker, of course, we've got about 1.5 minutes in this segment, and when we come back, we'll start with you doing that second segment. But give us some statements in terms of your involvement with the NAACP as well as the Bill Allen case. Take about 1 minute to do that, and then we'll start with you when we come back during the second segment.
All right, Dr. Haney, well, I'm involved with NAACP as a co-chair of the Legal Redress Committee. Of course, I've always had a great interest in social justice and all the injustices and things that are taking place in our society that we're living in. So it's just a proper fit for me, you know. So I got involved with the NAACP about a year ago, and been trying to work with him ever since. In terms of the Bill Allen situation, I met Bill back in 1999 when I went out to River Bend for a speaking engagement with an inmate organization at the time. And I met this gentleman, and I say that sincerely when I say I met this gentleman, because that's how he presented himself to me, and I became acquainted with him. And of course, the story goes on and on and on. I know I don't have enough time in this particular segment right here to go into that, but I met Bill Allen back in 1999 out there at Riverbend Prison.
Very good. And of course, let us take this first commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll start with you, and we'll get the whole story in reference to the Bill Allen case. We'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.
I never knew I could make a difference in someone else's life at such an early stage in my own.
To the second segment of the show for today, we're talking to Pastor Walker, Tisha Thompson, and Dr. Charles Kimbrough, members of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And we're talking about the very, very controversial case of Bill Allen. And let's have you, Pastor Walker, to sort of give us an overview in a real sense. Take a couple of 3 minutes to give us an overview of the situation that Bill has found himself in, and why all of these folks have gathered together in an attempt to try to make an appeal for his freedom. Give us as much information as you can.
Well, Dr. Haney, I think one of the things is when it comes to the Bill Allen story is that you're not looking at, see, a couple of police officers were killed in Nashville, Tennessee back in 1968. I think Dr. Kimbrough said it was January of 1968. At that time, I was about 12 years old, about to turn 13. And you know the climate in 1968 Nashville, you know, with all the racial stresses and all the things like that, riots that had been taking place and all kind of stuff. And you had college students that was definitely actively involved in the civil rights movement, social injustice, voter registration, all the things that go along with that. And Bill Allen fit into that group. He was in college. He was a student in college. He was a progressive student in college. So you're not talking about somebody that ran around with a criminal mindset, with a criminal attitude, committing crimes. This wasn't the Bill Allen of that day. He was in college. He was pursuing a medical degree, I think. And of course, something had happened in Nashville at that time, and for some odd reason, they got singled out. The young black men in that particular vehicle, 5 black men in that vehicle, they got singled out. They followed and pulled over in one of the beat-up spots by the Metropolitan Police Department, you know, and that's what happened. But what was meant to go one way in terms of how the police normally would do things in that particular time, when they run across some young black men, it flipped. It changed the script, and Bill ended up with the upper hand. There's no denial of the fact that a rifle was shot and hit 2 police officers. The problem is with all the cover-up and the missing evidence and all of that stuff, and the injustices and the unconstitutional aspects that surrounds and that's involved in this particular situation. And these are the things that stirs us up on the inside, Dr. Haney, that makes us want to get in the trenches and push this thing, because we feel like that after all these many years in prison, that Bill Allen should be released. You know, Bill Allen was in prison, he was incarcerated, he escaped from prison, stayed on the run for like 13 years of his life. And the reason why it took them so long, it was so hard and so difficult for them to catch Bill Allen, is